Captain Jake Rodriguez had been fighting battles across distant planets for almost 10 years. He thought he had seen everything the universe could throw at him. Wars between space colonies, alien creatures that could tear through metal, and technologies that seemed impossible. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared him for what he found that morning in the purple forest of planet Centaur 7. The distress signal had come through at 0600 hours. Something big had crashed in the northern jungle, and the energy readings were off the charts. Jake's team of 5 soldiers grabbed their gear and headed out in their hover transport. The jungle was unlike anything on Earth. Trees with silver bark stretched hundreds of feet into the sky, their leaves glowing with a soft blue light. Strange creatures with multiple eyes watched them from the branches as they flew past. When they reached the crash site, Jake felt his breath catch in his throat. The ship wasn't like any human vessel he'd ever seen. It looked like someone had carved it from a single piece of crystal, all smooth curves and gleaming surfaces. The hull was cracked in several places, and a strange silvery fluid leaked from the wounds. Steam rose from the wreckage, creating an eerie fog that danced between the glowing trees. "Sir, I'm reading massive energy fluctuations," said Tommy, his communications officer. The young man's voice carried a hint of fear. "Whatever this thing is, it's still active." Jake nodded and signaled for his team to spread out. They approached the craft carefully, weapons ready but not raised. First contact protocols were clear. Assume peaceful intent unless proven otherwise. As they got closer, Jake could see that parts of the ship's hull were transparent. Through the clear sections, he caught glimpses of technology that looked more like art than machinery. Then he saw her. She was lying in what appeared to be the ship's main cabin, surrounded by floating displays of light and symbols. At first glance, she looked almost human. But as Jake's eyes adjusted, he realized how wrong he was. Her skin had a blue-silver tint that seemed to shift and change in the light. Patterns like living tattoos moved slowly across her face and arms, pulsing with a rhythm that reminded him of a heartbeat. "My God," whispered Lisa, his medical officer. "She's still alive." The alien woman's eyes fluttered open as they approached. They were unlike any eyes Jake had ever seen, silver like liquid mercury, with flecks of gold that seemed to swim in their depths. When she looked at him, he felt something strange happen in his chest, like recognition, even though he'd never seen her before in his life. She tried to speak, but the words came out in a language of musical tones and flowing sounds. Jake's universal translator kicked in, converting her words into English with a slight delay. "Please, help me," she said, her voice carrying desperation and pain. "I am dying." Lisa immediately started scanning her with the medical equipment. The readings were confusing. The alien had 2 hearts, both beating irregularly. Her blood pressure was dropping fast, and her body temperature was falling below what seemed safe for any living creature. "There's something in her system," Lisa said, studying her scanner. "Some kind of poison or toxin. It's spreading through her bloodstream and shutting down her organs one by one." The alien princess, for Jake somehow knew that's what she was, reached out with a trembling hand. Her fingers were longer than human fingers, elegant and graceful even in her weakened state. "My name is, in your language, it would be Arya," she said through the translator. "Princess Arya of the Stellar Kingdom. I need compatible blood, a transfusion, or I will die within the hour." Jake felt his team exchange worried glances. Giving blood to an alien? It seemed impossible, dangerous, maybe even deadly. Who knew what alien diseases she might carry? What if their blood was toxic to each other? "Ma'am, we don't know if human blood would even work," Lisa said gently. "Our biology could be completely different." Princess Arya's eyes grew dimmer, and the patterns on her skin began to fade. "Please, scan me. Your technology should be able to tell you if we are compatible." "I would not ask if there were any other way." Lisa looked at Jake, waiting for orders. He could see the doubt in her eyes, the fear of the unknown. But he could also see something else, the same recognition he had felt when he first looked at the princess. Something about this felt right, even though it made no logical sense. "Do the scan," Jake ordered. Lisa ran her medical scanner over both Jake and the princess. The device hummed and beeped for what felt like forever. When it finally stopped, Lisa stared at the readout in shock. "This is impossible," she whispered. "According to this, your blood is 97% compatible with hers. That shouldn't be possible between different species, especially from different worlds." Jake looked down at Princess Arya. Her breathing was becoming more labored, and the light patterns under her skin were growing fainter by the minute. 2 hearts were failing, and he might be the only person in the universe who could save her. "Sir, this could be extremely dangerous," said Rick, his weapons specialist. "We don't know what kind of effects alien blood could have on a human body. You could get sick. Or worse. And what if it's some kind of trap?" added Tommy. "What if she's not really dying? What if this is how they take over human minds or something?" Jake understood their concerns. They were trained soldiers, taught to be suspicious of everything unknown. But as he looked into Princess Arya's fading eyes, he saw something that transcended species or planets. He saw a living being in pain, someone who needed help, and he was the only one who could provide it. "I've made my decision," Jake said, rolling up his sleeve. "Lisa, prepare for an emergency transfusion." Princess Arya's eyes widened with surprise and what looked like gratitude. "You would risk your life for someone you just met, someone not even of your species?" Jake knelt beside her and took her strange, elegant hand in his. Her skin felt warm despite her failing condition, and those moving patterns seemed to respond to his touch, growing slightly brighter. "Where I come from, we have a saying," he told her. "We're all just people trying to make it through another day. Doesn't matter what planet you're from." As Lisa prepared the equipment for the transfusion, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that this moment would change everything, not just for him and the princess, but for something much bigger than either of them could imagine. The universe seemed to be holding its breath, waiting to see what would happen when the blood of 2 different worlds mixed for the first time. In history outside the crashed ship, the purple jungle continued to glow with its alien light, and somewhere in the distance, something was watching, something that had been waiting for this exact moment for a very long time. Lisa worked quickly, her hands steady despite the impossible situation they found themselves in. She had performed hundreds of medical procedures during her military career, but never anything like this, connecting a human to an alien for a blood transfusion was so far beyond her training that she was basically making it up as she went along. "The good news is that her medical equipment is incredibly advanced," Lisa said, studying the alien devices that line the walls of the crashed ship. "It's like they're designed to adapt to any biological system they encounter." Jake lay on a makeshift medical bed beside Princess Arya, watching as Lisa carefully connected the alien medical tubes to both of their arms. The technology seemed to read their biology in real time, adjusting itself to work with both human and alien physiology. It was both fascinating and terrifying. "How are you feeling, sir?" Tommy asked, his young face creased with worry. "Like I'm about to make either the best or worst decision of my life," Jake replied, trying to keep his voice light despite the gravity of the situation. Princess Arya turned her head to look at him. Even in her weakened state, there was something regal about her, something that spoke of wisdom and responsibility far beyond her apparent age. "In my culture," she said softly, "there's a saying. When 2 souls choose to bridge the void between stars, the universe itself takes notice. I believe we are about to discover what that means." Lisa finished the connections and took a deep breath. "Okay, starting the transfusion now. Jake, if you feel anything strange, anything at all, you tell me immediately." The moment Jake's blood began flowing into Princess Arya's system, something extraordinary happened. Where his red blood mixed with her silver circulatory system, new colors began to appear. Golden threads of light started weaving through her veins, visible through her translucent skin like living artwork. "Ho?" Rick whispered from across the room. "Are you guys seeing this?" But the changes weren't limited to the princess. Jake felt a surge of energy unlike anything he had ever experienced. It started as a warm tingling in his chest and spread throughout his entire body. His vision became sharper, clearer. He could suddenly see colors in the spectrum that he had never noticed before. The purple leaves of the jungle outside now showed him patterns and details that had been invisible just moments ago. Lisa. His vital signs are spiking. Tommy called out, monitoring the equipment. Heart rate, brain activity, everything's increasing, but not in a dangerous way. It's like his entire system is being enhanced. Princess Arya gasped, and her eyes flew open wide. For the first time since they had found her, the silver orbs were bright and alert. But something even more incredible happened when she spoke. "Thank you," she said, and Jake realized with shock that she was speaking perfect English. Not translated English, but natural, fluent English with no accent at all. I can understand everything. Not just your words, but your thoughts, your feelings." Jake stared at her in amazement. "How is that possible?" "I don't know," she replied, sitting up slowly as her strength returned. "But I can feel your memories, your experiences. I know about your childhood on Earth, about your first day in the military, about the woman you loved and lost in the war on Titan Station." Jake's blood ran cold. He had never told anyone about Rebecca, about how losing her had nearly destroyed him. How could you possibly know that? Because somehow, your blood is carrying more than just cells and oxygen, Princess Arya explained, wonder filling her voice. It's carrying information, memories, pieces of who you are, and I think my blood is doing the same thing to you. As if to prove her point, Jake suddenly found himself knowing things he had never learned. He knew about the princess's home world, a planet of crystal cities and floating gardens. He knew about her people, the Luminari, who had evolved to communicate through light and energy as much as sound. He knew about her desperate escape from an arranged marriage that would have started a war. "This is impossible," Lisa said, checking and rechecking her medical scanners. "Jake, your DNA is showing traces of alien genetic material, but it's not replacing your human DNA. It's somehow integrating with it, making it stronger." Princess Arya stood up, and for the first time, Jake saw her at full strength. She was beautiful, in a way that transcended species, with grace and power flowing through every movement. But what struck him most was the way she looked at him, like she had known him her entire life. "There are legends among my people," she said, placing her hand over her heart's. "Stories of a phenomenon called the Soul Bridge. It's said to occur, maybe once in 1,000 years, when two beings from different worlds are meant to connect on the deepest possible level. Most Luminari believe it's just a fairy tale." "And now?" Jake asked, though he was beginning to suspect he already knew the answer. "Now I think we're living proof that some fairy tales are real." Jake stood up as well, and as he did, he felt something incredible happen. He could sense Princess Arya's emotions as clearly as his own. Her gratitude, her amazement, her growing affection for him. It all flowed through their connection like a river of feeling. But it wasn't just one way. When Jake felt a moment of doubt about what was happening to them, golden light pulsed under the princess's skin. When she experienced a flash of joy at being alive, warmth spread through Jake's chest like sunshine. "Sir," Rick called from the ship's communications array, "we've got a problem. I'm picking up multiple signals approaching our position. Looks like someone else detected the crash." Tommy checked his scanner and frowned. 3 different groups, coming from different directions. One signature matches human military tech, but the other 2, I've never seen anything like them. Princess Arya's expression grew serious, and through their connection, Jake felt a wave of fear and urgency. "The Fourth and Collective," she said grimly, "they must have tracked my ship. They're the ones I was fleeing from. If they capture me, they'll torture me for the location of my homeworld and then destroy it." "And the human military?" Jake asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. "Do that too. They'll want to study us, to understand what's happened between us. They'll separate us for research and testing." Princess Arya met his eyes, and Jake could feel her determination. Through their bond, "We can't let that happen. This connection it's too important, too rare to be locked away in some laboratory." Lisa finished packing up the medical equipment with shaking hands. "Jake, whatever's happening to you two, it's beyond anything science can currently explain. Your cellular structure is actually changing, evolving in real time. You're becoming something new, something that's never existed before. Jake looked around at his team, these people who had followed him through countless battles, entrusted him with their lives. Now he was asking them to trust him with something that defied everything they thought they knew about the universe. I know this is crazy, he said. I know it goes against every protocol we've been taught, but I can feel something bigger happening here, something that's meant to be. This isn't just about saving one life anymore. Through their connection, he felt Princess Arya's agreement and her growing realization of what their bond might mean for both their species. So what do we do, sir? Tommy asked, his young face showing trust despite his obvious confusion. Jake looked out at the approaching ships on the horizon, then back at Princess Arya. The woman who had been a dying stranger in Argo now felt like the most important person in the universe. We run, he said simply, and we figure out what we've become along the way. The next 3 days changed everything Jake thought he knew about the universe. They had managed to escape the crash site just ahead of the approaching ships, taking refuge in a series of crystal caves deep in the purple jungle. But running from their pursuers was the least of Jake's worries now. What was happening between him and Princess Arya was beyond anything he could have imagined. The connection they shared was growing stronger by the hour. On the first night, Jake woke up from a nightmare about the war on Titan Station, only to find golden light pulsing under Princess Arya's skin in the exact pattern of his racing heartbeat. When she experienced homesickness for her crystal cities, Jake felt an ache in his chest so deep it brought tears to his eyes. This is getting stronger, isn't it? Lisa asked on the second morning, watching as Jake and Princess Arya seemed to communicate without speaking. We can feel each other's emotions from across the cave now, Princess Arya explained, sitting beside the small fire they had built. Yesterday, when Jake cut his hand on a sharp rock, I felt the pain as if it were my own injury. Tommy, who had been keeping watch, turned around with a confused expression. But how is that even possible? You're from completely different planets. Princess Arya smiled, and Jake felt her amusement flow through their bond like warm honey. That's exactly what makes it so special, Tommy. According to the ancient texts of my people, the soul bridge can only form between beings who are fundamentally different, yet somehow perfectly matched. She stood up and walked to the cave entrance, looking out at the strange alien landscape. Through their connection, Jake could feel her mixing emotions, wonder, fear, and something else he was beginning to recognize as love. My grandmother used to tell me stories about the bridge, she continued. She said that every few centuries, the universe would choose two souls and bind them together to create something new, something that could help both their peoples grow and evolve. Rick, ever the practical soldier, shook his head. With all due respect, Princess, that sounds like folklore. What we're seeing here has to have some kind of scientific explanation. Does it? Jake asked, flexing his hand and watching golden threads of light dance under his skin. Lisa, have your medical scans shown anything that makes scientific sense? Lisa laughed, but there was no humor in it. Jake, according to my equipment, you're both undergoing cellular changes that should take millions of years of evolution. Your brain activity is synchronized even when you're sleeping. And yesterday, when that storm hit, I could swear you both generated some kind of energy field that kept us dry. It was true. During the massive thunderstorm that had swept through the jungle, Jake and Princess Arya had instinctively moved closer together, without either of them understanding how. A shimmering barrier had formed around their entire group, keeping them completely dry while torrential alien rain poured down around them. There's something else, Princess Arya said softly, and Jake felt her nervousness through their bond. Something I haven't told you about why I was really fleeing my homeworld. Jake walked over to stand beside her, and the moment they were close, the golden patterns under both their skins brightened visibly. Their connection was strongest when they were near each other, and Jake was beginning to understand that this wasn't just emotional. They were somehow sharing energy, life force, strength. The marriage arrangement my father made, Princess Arya continued, it wasn't just about politics. The Vorthan Collective doesn't want to unite with my people. They want to conquer us. But there's something they need from me specifically. Through their bond, Jake felt her fear spike, and automatically, his hand found hers. The touch sent waves of golden light up both their arms. My bloodline carries the genetic memory of my people, she explained. Everything we know about advanced technology, about our homeworld's defenses, about the location of our hidden colonies, it's all stored in my DNA. If the Vorthans capture me and extract my blood, they'll have everything they need to destroy my entire civilization. Tommy's eyes went wide. So you're like a living database of your people's most important secrets? Exactly. And now, Princess Arya looked at Jake with an expression of wonder and worry. Now some of that information is in Jake's blood too. The soul bridge didn't just connect our emotions and consciousness, it shared our genetic memories. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Through their connection, he was beginning to access memories that weren't his own. Images of crystal cities floating among the stars, technologies that could bend light and gravity, star maps showing the location of hidden luminary worlds. But it works both ways, Jake realized. You're getting human military knowledge, tactical information, details about Earth's defenses. Yes, Princess Arya nodded. I know about your secret bases, your weapon systems, your alliance structures. If the wrong people captured either one of us now, they'd have intelligence on both our species. Lisa finished grimly. Rick stood up suddenly, his weapon in his hands. Speaking of the wrong people, we've got movement out there. Multiple contacts approaching the cave system. Jake felt Princess Arya's spike of fear, and through their bond, he somehow knew exactly what she was seeing in her mind. Vorthan hunter squads, he said. The alien knowledge flowing through him. They track by energy signatures, and our connection is like a beacon to them. How long do we have? Tommy asked, already gathering their equipment. Princess Arya closed her eyes, and Jake felt her reaching out with senses he was only beginning to understand. 20 minutes. Maybe less. There are at least 30 of them, armed with particle weapons and energy nets. And the human forces? Jake asked. This time it was his own tactical knowledge that provided the answer. Enhanced by his new connection with Princess Arya. They're coming from the south, Colonel Davidson's Special Forces Unit. They'll be here in about an hour. Lisa looked between Jake and Princess Arya with growing understanding. You two are sharing knowledge in real time now, aren't you? Not just emotions, but actual information and memories. It's accelerating, Princess Arya confirmed. Every hour that passes, our bond grows deeper. Soon we'll know everything about each other's species, cultures, technologies. Jake felt the truth of her words through their connection. Already, he could understand basic luminary technology, could read their flowing script, could sense the energy patterns that they use for communication. And he knew that Princess Arya was gaining similar insights into human science and culture. There's something else, Jake said. A new realization dawning on him. This isn't just about sharing information. Our abilities are changing too. To demonstrate, he focused on the cave wall behind them. Golden light began to flow from his hands, and the solid rock became transparent, giving them a clear view of the jungle beyond. Princess Arya gasped and placed her hands beside his. Silver light joined with the golden, and suddenly they could see energy signatures moving through the forest, the approaching Vorthan soldiers. Incredible, Tommy whispered. You're both developing new abilities, not developing. Princess Arya corrected. Unlocking. The soul bridge doesn't just connect to individuals. It awakens potential that was always there, waiting for the right catalyst. Jake could feel the truth of her words resonating through their bond. Somewhere deep inside, he had always known he was capable of more than just being a soldier. And Princess Arya had always sensed that her people's abilities were just the beginning of what was possible. But their moment of wonder was interrupted by the sound of energy weapons. Charging in the distance, they found us, Rick announced. Grimly. Jake looked at his team. These loyal soldiers who had followed him into the impossible. Then he looked at Princess Arya, the woman who had become more important to him than his own life in just 3 days. We can't outrun them forever, he said. and we can't let either side capture us. Princess Arya nodded, her silver eyes reflecting his determination. Then we make our stand here. Together, through their bond, Jake felt her resolve strengthen. His own, whatever they had become, whatever they were still becoming, they would face it side by side. The universe had chosen to bridge the gap between their species through them, and they wouldn't let that gift be corrupted by fear or greed. The golden and silver light under their skin began to pulse in perfect synchronization as they prepared for the fight of their lives. The first energy blast hit the cave entrance just as Jake and his team finished gathering their gear. The purple crystal walls exploded in a shower of sparks and dust, and through the smoking hole, they could see the Vorthan soldiers advancing. These weren't like any aliens Jake had encountered before. They looked like walking nightmares, tall, angular beings covered in black armor that seemed to absorb light itself. Move, 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 Jake shouted, leading his team deeper into the cave system. Princess Arya ran beside him, and even in the chaos, he could feel her fear mixing with his own determination through their bond. There's another exit through the back tunnels, she said, her voice steady despite everything. I can sense the air currents. Jake marveled at how naturally she was adapting to abilities that should have been impossible. Through their connection, he was doing the same thing. His enhanced senses could now detect the enemy's movements. Through vibrations in the rock, could smell their alien technology, could almost taste their hostile intentions in the air. They ran through narrow passages that twisted and turned like a maze. Behind them, the sound of pursuit echoed off the crystal walls, energy weapons charging, alien voices barking orders in their harsh language. That Princess Arya translated automatically in Jake's mind. They're splitting up, Rick called from the rear, checking his scanner. Trying to cut off our escape routes. Let them try, Princess Arya said, and Jake felt a surge of confidence flow through their bond. They don't understand what they're dealing with. She was right. As they ran, Jake began to notice something incredible happening. When the passage ahead was too dark to see, golden light began emanating from his skin, illuminating their path. When Princess Arya stumbled on loose rocks, Jake somehow sensed it before it happened and caught her without even looking back. Sir, Tommy panted as they reached a junction of 3 tunnels. How did you know she was going to fall? I felt it through our connection, Jake replied, then paused as he realized the implications. We're not just sharing emotions anymore. We're sharing physical sensations, reflexes, even instincts. They chose the middle tunnel, following Princess Arya's enhanced senses toward what she insisted was fresh air and freedom. But as they emerged into a larger cavern, they found themselves face to face with a squad of Vorthan soldiers. The aliens raised their weapons immediately, but something extraordinary happened. As the energy blast came toward them, Jake and Princess Arya moved in perfect synchronization, without planning or communication. They raised their hands together, and a barrier of gold and silver light sprang up in front of the entire team. The enemy weapon's fire struck the barrier and simply absorbed into it, making the light grow brighter and stronger. Impossible, one of the Vorthans hissed in their translated language. The human has been contaminated with luminary abilities, more than contaminated, Princess Arya replied, stepping forward with a confidence Jake had never seen before. Enhanced. What happened next was like a dance between 2 people who had been practicing together for years, instead of days. Jake channeled his military training through their bond, while Princess Arya shared her people's energy manipulation techniques. Together, they moved through the cavern like a force of nature. When Jake dodged left, Princess Arya was already moving right to cover his blind spot when she generated a pulse of disorienting light. Jake was ready with tactical strikes that took advantage of the enemy's confusion. They fought as one being with 2 bodies, each anticipating the other's moves before they even made them. Lisa, Tommy, and Rick could only watch in amazement as their commanding officer and the alien princess dispatched an entire squad of elite soldiers without either of them getting so much as a scratch. Remind me never to get on your bad side, Rick muttered as the last Vorthan soldier fell unconscious from one of Princess Arya's energy pulses. But their victory was short-lived. Jake's enhanced senses picked up movement from multiple directions. More Vorthan squads converging on their position, and worse, the distinctive sound of human military aircraft approaching from the south. "We're about to be caught between two armies," Lisa observed grimly. Princess Arya closed her eyes and reached out with her enhanced perception. Through their bond, Jake could feel her consciousness expanding, touching the minds of every living thing in the surrounding jungle. "There's a way out," she said finally, "but it's dangerous. There's a ravine about 2 miles from here, with a river at the bottom. If we can reach it, we can follow the water to the coast. 2 miles through hostile territory with enemies coming from all directions." Tommy asked, "How is that possible?" Jake felt Princess Arya's smile through their connection before he saw it on her face. "Because we're not just Jake and Arya anymore. We're something new. Something they've never had to deal with before." As if to prove her point, she gestured toward the cavern wall. Silver light flowed from her hands, and the solid rock began to change, becoming transparent and then dissolving entirely, creating a new exit that led directly toward their escape route. "Your turn," she said to Jake with a grin. Jake focused on the jungle beyond, and golden light spread out from him like a wave. Where it touched the alien plants and trees, they began to move and shift, creating a clear path while simultaneously growing thicker in other areas to block their pursuers. "You're both reshaping the environment," Lisa breathed in wonder. "Actually changing the physical world around you. The soul bridge doesn't just connect to individuals," Princess Arya explained as they began moving through their newly created passage. "It connects them to the life force of everything around them. We're not fighting against this world, we're becoming part of it." Their journey through the jungle was unlike anything Jake had ever experienced. With their combined abilities, they moved like spirits through the alien landscape. When Vorthan soldiers got too close, Jake would create illusions of golden light that sent them chasing shadows. When human aircraft swept overhead with scanners, Princess Arya would bend the very light around them, making them invisible to both eyes and technology. But the most incredible part was how natural it all felt. Every new ability, every impossible feat, seemed like something they had always known how to do. The bond between them was unlocking potential that went far beyond what either species had achieved alone. "I can see why both sides want to capture us," Tommy said during a brief rest beside an alien stream. "If other humans could learn to do what you're doing, that's exactly the problem," Jake replied, sharing a worried glance with Princess Arya. "This isn't something that can be taught or copied. The soul bridge is unique, personal. But if either side got hold of us, they tried to force it, weaponize it." Princess Arya nodded, her silver eyes reflecting the strange sunset of the alien world. "My people have legends about what happens when the bridge is corrupted by greed or violence. The results are catastrophic." Through their bond, Jake saw flashes of the ancient stories, civilizations that had tried to artificially create soul bridges for military purposes, only to destroy themselves in the process. The connection between souls couldn't be forced or replicated. It could only be freely given and received. As they reached the ravine Princess Arya had sensed, Jake looked back at the jungle they were leaving behind. Somewhere in those purple trees, 3 different armies were hunting for them, his own people, who saw him as either a traitor or a test subject. Princess Arya's people, who didn't even know she was still alive, and the Vorthans, who wanted to use their connection to destroy both civilizations. "What happens when we reach the coast?" Rick asked as they began their descent toward the river below. Jake felt Princess Arya's hand slip into his, and through their bond, he sensed her mixture of hope and uncertainty. "I think," she said softly, "we're about to find out what we were really meant to become." In the distance, energy weapons lit up the jungle as their pursuers fought each other, each faction believing the others had captured the prize they all sought. But Jake and Princess Arya were already beyond their reach, moving toward a destiny that none of them could have imagined. The universe had brought them together for a reason, and now it was time to discover what that reason truly was. The coast of planet Centaur 7 was nothing like Earth's oceans. The water glowed with a soft blue light, and strange crystalline formations jutted up from the waves like frozen lightning. Jake and his team had been following the river for 2 days, and Princess Arya's enhanced senses told them they were close to something important. There, she said, pointing toward a massive crystal formation that rose from the water like a natural tower. That's a luminary beacon. My people use them for emergency communications across space. Jake felt her excitement through their bond, mixed with nervousness about what they might find. Through their connection, he knew that activating the beacon would send a signal across the galaxy, calling for help but also revealing their exact location to anyone who might be listening. "Are you sure we can trust your people not to just hand us over for study?" Lisa asked. Voicing what everyone was thinking, Princess Arya was quiet for a moment, and Jake felt her uncertainty flow through their bond. "Honestly, I don't know. What's happened to us is beyond anything in our recorded history. Some of my people might see it as a gift from the universe. Others might see it as a dangerous contamination." Tommy, who had been keeping watch, suddenly turned around with wide eyes. Folks, I think the decision just got made for us." They all looked up to see ships descending from the sky. Not just one or two, but dozens of them, human military vessels, sleek luminary crystal ships, and the angular black warships of the Vorthan Collective. All 3 fleets had found them at the same time. "Well," Rick said dryly, "this is either going to be the worst day of our lives or the most important day in galactic history." Jake felt Princess Arya's hand find his, and through their bond, a wave of calm determination flowed between them. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. The ships landed on the beach in 3 separate groups, each faction eyeing the others with obvious suspicion and hostility. Jake recognized Colonel Davidson stepping out of the lead human transport, his face stern and unreadable. From the luminary ships came beings that looked similar to Princess Arya, but moved with the formal precision of a military honor guard. And from the Vorthan vessels emerged the same black armored figures they had been fighting for days. "Captain Rodriguez," Colonel Davidson called out as he approached, "you're under arrest for desertion, violation of first contact protocols, and treason." "Princess Arya," said the lead luminary officer in their musical language, "by order of the High Council, you will return home immediately to face judgment for your actions." The Vorthan commander said nothing, but the way his soldiers spread out made his intentions clear. They weren't here to arrest anyone. They were here to take what they wanted by force. Jake felt the tension building like electricity in the air. 3 armies, each convinced they were in the right, each ready to fight the others for the prize they believed Jake and Princess Arya represented. In moments, this beach would become a battlefield, and their connection would be lost in the violence. But then something incredible happened. As Jake and Princess Arya stepped forward together, their combined energy began to pulse outward like ripples on a pond. The golden and silver light that flowed beneath their skin grew brighter and brighter, until it formed a dome of pure energy around all 3 groups. "What are you doing?" Colonel Davidson demanded, but his voice carried wonder instead of anger. "Something that should have happened a long time ago," Princess Arya replied. Jake felt their consciousness expand, reaching out through the energy field to touch the minds of everyone on the beach. It wasn't an invasion or control. It was an invitation, an opportunity for each person to truly understand what the others were thinking and feeling. Through the connection, the human soldiers suddenly experienced the luminary reverence for life and harmony. They felt the deep sadness that Princess Arya's people carried for civilizations lost to war, their desperate desire for peace in a galaxy too often torn apart by conflict and misunderstanding. The luminary officers, in turn, felt the fierce protective instincts that drove human military culture. They experienced Jake's memories of losing friends in battle, the way humans would sacrifice everything to protect those they loved, even strangers from other worlds, and everyone, human and luminary alike, felt the cold hunger that drove the Vorthan Collective, their endless need to conquer and consume, born from a fear so deep it had turned an entire species into predators. "This is impossible," Colonel Davidson whispered, but Jake could feel through the connection that the man was beginning to understand. The fear and suspicion that had driven him to hunt Jake down was melting away, replaced by wonder at what he was experiencing. The Luminari officers were having similar reactions. Through the shared consciousness, they could feel that Princess Arya wasn't contaminated or corrupted. She was evolved, enhanced, becoming something beautiful and new. Even some of the Vorthan soldiers were beginning to lower their weapons, confusion, replacing aggression as they experienced emotions they had been taught to suppress for generations. "You see," Princess Arya said, her voice carrying to everyone through the energy field, "we're not so different. We all want the same things: safety for our families, prosperity for our people, a place in the universe where we can grow and thrive." Jake stepped forward, feeling the combined strength of their bond flowing through him. "The universe brought us together for a reason, not to create a weapon or a tool for any one species to use against the others, but to build a bridge, to show that cooperation is possible." Through their shared connection, everyone on the beach could feel the truth of his words. They could sense the potential for something greater than any of their individual civilizations had achieved alone. The Vorthan commander was the first to break the silence. "This feeling," he said slowly, his harsh voice uncertain, "is this what other species call peace?" Colonel Davidson removed his helmet and looked directly at Jake. "Son, I came here to rescue you, but what I'm experiencing now, this understanding, this connection, how do we even begin to explain this to our superiors?" "We don't explain it," Princess Arya said with a smile that Jake felt warm his entire being. "We show them." Over the following hours, something unprecedented happened on that glowing beach. Representatives from 3 different species sat down together and talked, really talked, without translators or diplomatic protocols getting in the way. The energy field that Jake and Princess Arya maintained allowed perfect communication, perfect understanding. They discovered that the Vorthan's aggression came from living on a dying world, desperately seeking new homes for their people. The human suspicion came from too many encounters with hostile alien species who saw them as inferior. And the Luminaries' isolation came from millennia of watching other civilizations destroy themselves through war. But what if it didn't have to be that way? Jake asked as the alien sunset painted the sky in colors that had no names. What if instead of fighting over resources and territory, we shared them? What if instead of each species struggling alone, we helped each other? Through their bond, Princess Arya added her own thoughts to his. "The Soul Bridge isn't just about us. It's about what becomes possible when beings choose connection over conflict." Lisa, who had been quietly documenting everything with her medical scanner, looked up with tears in her eyes. "The readings I'm getting. When you two project this field, everyone's stress hormones drop to almost nothing. Fear responses shut down. The aggressive instincts that drive conflict between species just disappear." Tommy, ever the young soldier with big dreams, asked the question they were all thinking. "So what happens now? Do we just go back to the way things were?" Jake and Princess Arya looked at each other, and through their connection, they shared a vision of the future. Not the future any of their species had planned, but the future that was actually possible. "We start small," Jake said. "A joint colony. Humans, Luminari, and any Vorthans who want to try living in peace instead of conquest. We prove that it can work." And then Colonel Davidson asked. Princess Arya's smile was radiant with hope and determination. "Then we change the galaxy." 6 months later, Jake stood in the gardens of New Harmony, the first truly integrated colony in known history. Human roses grew beside Luminari crystal flowers, while Vorthan children who had never known war played in the golden light that permanently flowed beneath his skin. Princess Arya found him there, as she did every evening, and as their hands touched, the familiar warmth of their connection filled them both. They had started as strangers from different worlds, brought together by a moment of desperate need. But they had become something more, proof that the universe's greatest strength wasn't in the power to destroy, but in the courage to connect. The golden threads of light that wove through both their beings pulsed with the rhythm of 2 hearts that had learned to beat as one, reminding them every day that sometimes the greatest adventures begin with the simple decision to help a stranger in need.